We're on week number 5 of 6, and Mr. Shem, we're going to be stopping for the summer. I just want to say a huge thanks to all of you who have your cameras on. It makes me feel like I'm actually talking to real people. And a huge thanks also to everyone who has been sharing your feedback and your stories. I want to actually just start quickly with reading one email that somebody sent. If I'm not going to disturb my computer by doing that, I can do this. Yes, I can do this. There we go. So I just edited a drop to protect that person's privacy. She wrote, I was struggling with resentment when someone close to me canceled on me when I was really depending on their help with one of my children. In my mind, it was unacceptable to cancel last minute on someone that you care about without even an apology. And real people are impacted. After last week's event, I was able, because last week we talked about letting go of resentment. That was 2 weeks ago, and last week there was, a elaboration of that personal empowerment. After last week's event, I was able to see that I truly desire the best for my child, and this person may not be the best person for me to rely on for that. And she wrote in parentheses, because this pattern has happened several times in different ways. This person is needy and not dependable. It's hard for me to accept, but it's also empowering to realize what I need to do for myself and my family. And I love this story because, again, it's a little moment, but little moments are what make up the story of our lives. One little moment adds up to another little moment and another little moment, and every moment in which we choose life, in which we choose connection, in which we choose joy, empowerment, as opposed to self-pity, stuck, misery, resentment, and all that otherness, right? That's what creates the life that we want to have. So thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing that story. And thank you all of you who've shared. I didn't read everything, obviously, but you know who you are. And I want you to, as you hear that, again, it's just a little moment, but if she could do something, if she could really turn around a moment of resentment, a moment of feeling stuck, a moment feeling sorry for herself, into realizing, hey, I can learn from this and I could do something about it for the future. And I don't even have to hold a grudge against this person because this is not their job description, right? So I could try it too, and you could try it too, because these tools really, really work. I want you to, if you didn't try it yet, try it out and see for yourself, and definitely come back here to share your successes, your joys, your victories. And if you have questions, you could email them to sterna@energizedliving.org. I'm always happy to help with a question if I can. And also, I just want to tell you that, everyone is always apologizing. I just want you to know, I learn a lot from your questions because they show me where the tools need more fine tuning and where, like that's what helps me connect with you. That's how I know where you're at. I always say if one person has a question, 100 people have that question. So huge thanks to everyone for being here, for being part of this journey together. Okay. So tonight's question that we want to answer is this: who would you be without your sense of shame? If you didn't feel so bad about yourself, if you really believed you were good, who would you be? What kind of person would you be? In what way would you be different? What would change for you in your relationships, in your relationship with yourself, in your work, in your family life? Let's think about it for a minute. And if you don't mind, if you could post shoot or answer on the chat, I'll read them. This question of who would I be without my fear, it's important because when we think about the pain in our lives, if we take a look at the painful situation that we're dealing with, and everyone has a painful situation. It could be a situation with one of our children. It could be a problem in our marriage, a difficulty at work, financial difficulty, health issue, a challenge that makes us feel stuck. When we look at that problem or the pain, whatever it might be, the worst part of it all is very often the shame of it all. The fact that I have this problem makes me embarrassed, because if I have this problem, it makes me a nebuch. It puts me in a certain category of people. It doesn't, but this is what we think it does. Puts me in a certain category of people that I never identified with, and I don't want to have to identify with. I feel like I'm being pushed into a corner where I'm being identified as a needy person, as a pitiful person, as a person in a sorry state. It makes me feel so bad that I cannot even pick up my head and look outside of my window. So imagine if even in context of the problems in your life and the challenges and the difficulties, imagine if you did not have any of that shame, any of that bad feeling, that heaviness in your heart that I am not good enough in some way or another. Who would you be? And what would you be like? What would change for you? I'm going to take a quick look at the chat to see what people are. I'd be free to be me and do my dreams. I love that. I think it's too big for writing in words, right? It's so big. We would be liberated. We would be free. We would be the light that we really are. And if we could actually have that and be that person who's not carrying around mountains and piles of heavy, grimy shame, we'd be lighthearted, and light, like really shine. And the truth is that this is not something we need to imagine, because we could make it real. Each of us can be that person. In fact, we already are that person. We just have to keep doing the work we've been talking about. And we'll add on something new. But before we do that, I want to bring it up to pace with, I want to put into context what we're talking about today. I want to put into context what we did before. So we'll give us a context of how the topic fits in. Remember, we talked about how every story, I think it was part one, week one of this series, how every story has an outside and an inside. The outside is what happens to us, and the inside is what happens within us, right? The outside is the people, the places, the things, other people's behaviors, the things we have or we don't have, the external stuff, the circumstances, the conditions, all of that is the outside story. And it's always only half of the story. It's the less impactful half of the story, right? The other half, the half that makes a much, much bigger difference to the story, is the inside story. It's what goes on inside of our own minds and hearts. And more importantly, it's what we believe about ourselves. What we believe about ourselves will always be how we feel about ourselves, which is the quality of our lives. Because how we feel about ourselves is how we engage. It's how we enter. It's the posture, right? It's our positioning. It's the role that we take in our story. Are we going to take the key player role or the victim role? Are we going to take this, are we going to take the big girl role or the broken one? It's everything, how we see ourselves. It makes all the difference to every relationship and every single situation we encounter. So when we're in a painful situation, or when we're even just uncomfortable or feeling sorry for ourselves or resentful, what we want to do is we want to look inward, not just outside. We want to look inward to see what's going on inside of our minds and hearts. And we want to be compassionate towards ourselves and to help ourselves, to be that adult to ourselves, to help ourselves move forward. And for this, we talked about developing a self who we see and who we trust as being capable, beautiful, wonderful, strong, smart, and our leader. And we can be that amazing, validating, encouraging adult in our own lives for ourselves and for other people, but starting with ourselves. And the big question is, which we started talking about last week, which we talked a lot about last week, the big question is, what if I don't have that wonderful, beautiful self? What if I don't trust myself? What if I actually even hate myself? I resent myself. I don't like this person. I'm not proud of her. And if I don't have that self, how can I get it? And we talked about that last week. We definitely, absolutely, positively do have that self. And it's all about discovering it. Each of us has an actual part of Hashem within us. It's absolutely valuable. It's more precious than anything under the sun, more beautiful than anything that's beautiful. And that's our deepest self. That's our true self, because it's more true, more real, more definitive than anything else about ourselves. And this is a summary of what we talked about last week, that we get that empowerment from Hashem. So the more we value Hashem, the more we will value the part of Hashem within us. And the more we value the part of Hashem within us, the more we respect ourself, that godly self within us. And that's how we can develop that big girl self, that adult person inside of us, that we were talking about by investing time, by investing effort, by investing energy in thinking about Hashem, being present with Hashem, connecting the dots in our minds, recognizing, reminding ourselves that there is an actual part of Hashem within us, our neshama, and being present with that neshama, tuning into it. That's our true self. We want to be present with that self, right? We want to own it. We want to give her an active role to play in our lives. We don't want our neshama to be, to take the back seat, to be a bystander, an observer to our lives. We want our neshama to be a leading force so we can proactively give our neshama a speaking part in our story by doing things, taking action, simple things like kissing the mezuzah, putting a coin in the tzedakah pushka, the charity box, saying a blessing on a drink of water, davening. When we daven, it's our neshama talking within our bodies. It's that part of Hashem within us, that godly soul inside of us, that's talking. And when we are faced with a decision to make, we can ask ourselves, what's my neshama's opinion on this matter? What's my deeper voice? And all of these things are how we could be present with our neshama, how we can amplify that voice in our consciousness and have that impact, that beautiful light, impactful light in our lives. And the more we do that, the more we let our neshama speak, the more we give her an active role to play in our lives, the more of a self we have, because that is our deepest self. That's the only part of us that's unconditionally respectable and worthy and forever beautiful. So all of that is like downloading connection, downloading consciousness, downloading awareness and closeness. And with this work, we could start to absorb the awesome magnitude of our inherent respectability and value, our beauty, our majestic gorgeousness. And we talked about, why does this work, right? What's the science behind it? And it's because if Hashem is the absolute value in the universe and Hashem is inside of us, then we have absolute value. If Hashem is respectable, I'm respectable and you're respectable. If Hashem's greatness cannot be diminished, not by anything or anyone, then that your greatness cannot be diminished by anything or anyone. And it sounds, okay, so that's it. That's till where we left off last week, right? But there's something more that we have to do, because it's not enough to recognize Hashem's value. It's not enough to download all of the awareness and consciousness. There is a virus in our system and it eats us up from the inside out. And everything that we download just gets destroyed before it gets to make a real impact. And that virus in our system is called the Yetzer Hara, the evil inclination. It's called the Yetzer Hara, and it's an inner force of distraction and delusion. Not only does it tell us lies, it makes those lies more believable than the truth. So every morning when we wake up in the morning, Hashem gives us an actual part of himself, and Hashem says, go ahead, go shine, go live, let there be light, let there be more light, go make this a beautiful day, give it your best shot. And at that very same moment, or maybe even a minute before, our Yetzer Hara says, really? Go ahead and shine? Are you kidding? Not you, not today, not now. Do you know what's happening today? Don't you remember what happened yesterday? The matzav, the situation, is bad news. And as a matter of fact, you are bad news. You know what a loser you are? You realize what a failure you are? Do you realize how good I am at imitating the Yetzer Hara? I really know that voice. And so we feel ashamed because we believe these lies, whatever shape they're in. I told you what my Yetzer Hara says. I'm sure your Yetzer Hara says similar, right? And we believe it. And then we don't have a real strong, beautiful, respectable self. We have a wannabe self. We want to feel respectable, but we actually don't respect ourselves because we believe that we're not respectable. We also believe, I believe that Hashem gives me value, but I also believe that my action has value, or my behavior has value, or my past has value. And it's true that all my behavior does have value, but does it define me? Does nothing else defines us other as deeply and as absolutely as the essence of who we are. But the challenge is that we believe that we're we're not good enough for whatever reason. So the solution is that we have to pick a side. That's really the bottom line. We have to pick a side. We have to decide what is true, and we have to be willing to let our truth stand, to let our truth stand strong. If Hashem is true, and of course Hashem is true, if Hashem is the absolute value of the universe, then our shame, any shame for any reason, anything that makes us not good is a lie. And the more clarity we have, the more we decide that Hashem is true. If Hashem is true, and then Hashem is valued, right? And Hashem is the absolute value of the universe, then shame is a lie. It's a lie. And if our shame is true, then clearly something has more power. If I say that even though I have an neshama, something's wrong with me, what I'm saying in that sentence is that whatever it is has more power, more value, it carries more weight, it takes up more space than Hashem himself. And that's why in the Aseret HaDibros, the 10 Commandments, we have 2 commandments. The first 2 are almost exactly the same. The first one we talked about last week is Anochi Hashem Elokecha. I am Hashem, your God, your exclusive power, your own personal empowerment, your own personal force of life. And that should be good enough, right? Hashem is God. Yay, we believe in God, the end, but it's not. We have a second commandment, which is Lo yihye lecha elokim acherim al Elohim acherim al panai. You should do not have any other gods in front of me, before me. What's the before me? Don't give power to anything other than Hashem. Don't have any other gods. Don't have any other idols. Why do we need the second commandment if we already have the first? We already have a God. The first one is telling us to embrace the truth. The second one is telling us to reject the lies. Aren't they exactly the same? But they're not, obviously. We need both. Because most of us think we could hold on to many truths. Yeah, we could accept the truth, and we could also give space to the lie, a little bit of a lie, a little bit of something. We're very comfortable with grays. Most of us think we could hold on to many truths. I could believe that Hashem has value. I could believe that I have value. And I could also believe that if I am overweight, or if I made a mistake, or if this thing happened to me, or if someone said this to me, then I don't have value, or I don't have that beautiful value. They have the power to make the part of Hashem in me worth less. Either worthless or worth a little bit less. But let's think about it. If anything has the power to give us shame, to make us into a bad person, to make us a nothing, that is avodah zarah, pure idol worship. Why? Because that means that is lo yihye lecha elokim acherim Elohim acherim al panai. We have a power that's coming before, that takes precedence, that takes up more space, that overshadows and overwhelms the goodness that we're getting from Hashem. So we need to believe that Hashem is our power, and we also need to stop feeding power to anything or anyone other, because believing in Hashem is nice, but we want to take that a step further and say, not only is Hashem the ultimate power of the universe, not only is Hashem my personal power, my life force, my empowerment, my value, in addition to all of that, Hashem is the only power. There's the key word here is exclusive. Nothing and no person can overshadow or overwhelm or push aside or minimize Hashem's value or Hashem's power within me. So every time we are faced with an inner voice of shame, we have that. Shame means I'm beating myself up, I'm not good enough, I'm shrieking into my toes, I'm feeling like I'm a disaster. We have the opportunity to turn our backs onto idol worship. We have the opportunity to say, look, this thing, for example, this money, this body image, my looks, my success, my failure, my desire to make a good impression, this thing seems very important. It seems very impactful, very valuable. And from the perspective of the world that hides Hashem, or from the perspective of this thing, or from the perspective of this situation, I'm absolutely a loser. I'm a failure. I'm an idiot. I'm a lowlife, a nebuch, a nothing, a bad girl, a horrible person, whatever your shame calls you, whatever words you have, right? because that's what my situation says about me. That's what my past up until this very moment said about me, that I'm a mistake, right? That's what my circumstances dictate. Or I'm less than other people. Somewhat, I don't measure up. Or we could say it about people too. This person in my life seems very important, very influential, very authoritative, very good, very smart, very everything that I ever wanted to be. And they don't like me. They rejected me. They dismissed me. They were not nice to me. They misunderstood me. They hurt me, whatever it is. Their whole self screams that I am a nothing because they don't give me credence. So I have two contradicting ideas here, right? On one hand, yes, Hashem is true, Hashem is precious, and therefore I have value. But on the other hand, I have lots of proof that I am a loser, a bad person, or whatever else the Yetzer Hara says I am, right? The proof is real. It's from a situation, it's from a really important person, or it's from my own self that I decided. So what am I going to believe? Which one does Hashem have the value, or does this other voice, the voice of shame, have the value? Whichever one we believe, whichever one we decide, yes, you are right, and therefore I'm going to act on you, that's our real power. That's where we have to put our money where our mouth is. Is that the expression? I think, right? We have to put our power where our belief is, where our trust is. Whichever one we believe, that's our real power. So deciding to believe this, deciding to accept it as our truth over the other idea, means this is our real power. So if the part of Hashem within me means that I'm a good person with strong value, and the situation or person or mistake means that I am a bad person, which one is true? We need to pick a side. Whichever one we pick, the other one is irrelevant. And if we make Hashem irrelevant, it's irrelevant because it's not my truth. It's true, but it's not my truth. And if we make Hashem irrelevant in any situation, which means if I make my dignity is godly, it's holy, it's precious, it's pure. We're not allowed to minimize it. It's holy. It's not ours even. It doesn't belong to us. If we make Hashem irrelevant, if we make our dignity and beauty and gorgeousness irrelevant in any situation, in any circumstance, in any place for any person, that is Avodah Zarah. And if this resonates with you, if this idea resonates with you, then you need to really have clarity. You need to decide, pick a side. Who is true? Is God true or is he not true? If he's true, he's 100% true, because a 99% truth is an absolute lie. If Hashem is true, then let's go with that. And if he's not true, then okay, then live with, then we have a good reason to be ashamed of ourselves. But if he is true, then we have no reason. If any of this, if this resonates with you, then we now have a tool to let go of any shame. And I call this, pick a truth and let the lies disappear on their own. We just have to turn on the light of truth, decide what's my truth? What am I really, really gonna believe in? And we could take it from there. Okay, if anybody wants to jump in and share a thought, a question, an insight. It's a fantastic question. I love it. Thanks for asking it. What the question is, you're saying Hashem is the only power of the universe. And in my life, I see that there's a person in my life who bothers my son and is making him miserable. Whatever he does to him, we're not talking about the details. Maybe it's a teacher, maybe it's a sibling, maybe it's a relative, maybe it's another kid who's bullying him, right? I see this person, doing that. So here's the thing. That person who's bothering your son is accountable for their behavior. They have the power of choice, and they're making bad choices. Clearly, they're making very bad choices. And yet, on our part, the energy of our lives happens exclusively between us and Hashem. And the solution is going to come between you and Hashem. The more power in your mind, even, that person has, the more pity you feel for yourself and for your son, the less empowered you feel. The more the power Hashem has, if Hashem has all the power, and you're not afraid of rocking the boat with this person by having a difficult conversation, calling in the troops if there's a dangerous situation, calling for help, really being assertive, really being active, the mama bear that you are, and protecting your child from whatever it is that's going on, you're empowered. When Hashem is our power, we have power. When we see other people as having power, compared to other people, we're small because they might be louder than us. They might have more money than us. They might have more influence than us. They have more followers. They have a louder voice in the community even. They're more clout. They're more respect. So between me and the other person, especially if this person is hurting me, I feel small. But if that person does not have any power, and that's the truth, I'm talking about, I'm telling you, I'm coming from a place of like, telling you what is in our best interest from a practical point of view of like, what's helpful to believe, right? But the truth is that only Hashem has power. That's the foundation of Jewish faith, that, and it's in so many of the 13 principles of faith, right? Hashem is the only one who does, who did, who will do. He's the only cause of everything. What does it mean if somebody else looks like they have power? That's the illusion. It's the same way it looks like the sun, comes up in the sky every morning on its own. So maybe the sun is God. It looks like the weather happens in a systematic way, in a way that where's I don't see Hashem, right? In the book we talk about this like a puppet show where the puppeteer is behind the scenes pulling all the strings, but you don't see the puppeteer. And that's why every day we say Shema to remind ourselves that even though we don't see Hashem, He is the only cause. So learn more about Hashem, listen to more of this series, talk to people who believe in Hashem. Definitely, if Hashem is true, then He is the exclusive power, because that is what Hashem is. Hashem entrusted you with a child to take care of, to protect, to nurture, to raise to adulthood as a safe human being with the best way that you can. Yeah, and we have to do our best. And I'm sure that you are doing your best. And so when you're no longer afraid of the other person, you're no longer afraid of their reaction, you could actually take action to do what is in your son's and your family's best interest without fear. I want to wish you a lot of hatzlacha, because that's a hard situation. Someone's saying, I am not sure it's the shame about the problem, it's more the pain. Next week, Be'ezus Hashem, we're going to be talking about 10 strategies for dealing with pain. So come back next week. That is the topic of next week. So come back for that. Go ahead. We hear you. Thank you so much for sharing that experience. That was really, really, really great. Thank you so much. Someone's asking a really good question on the chat. What if I'm choosing Hashem as my truth, but I still feel hurt or confused emotion? Is that the Yetzer Hara or the Nefesh HaBahamis? Thank you for asking that question. It's fantastic. We're talking, gives me the opportunity to clarify. We're talking about now letting go of shame. Once you really let go of shame, and I want to define what shame is. Shame is the decision that I'm not good in some way or another. The decision that, like that feeling of disgrace that envelops us when we have that decision, I'm not that good. I'm a little bit less than the other person. Shame is when we feel sorry for ourselves because we feel less than. Shame is all that negative self-talk that we have about ourselves. So what we're talking about is to recognize that shame as toxic. It's like, just like, somebody once asked me, they said, what's your shortest way of explaining that, how to let go of shame? And I said, to me, after learning all of this, it's like, you have a bottle of poison because you like soap, let's say Easy Off, that you use very rarely on Erev Pesach to clean your oven, and it's really heavy duty poison, and you don't want to keep it around kids, right? I don't need, as a healthy person, I don't need to tell myself not to drink the Easy Off. I'm never going to drink it. You could offer me $1 million. I'm not drinking that poison. I'm not tempted to drink it. I don't keep it in my fridge. I keep it far away so that nobody should ever come to ingest it. Poison, a healthy person, when we know that something is poison, we don't drink it. We just don't drink it. The problem is shame, we don't recognize it as poison, so we drink it, we eat it, we marinate in it, we let it suck the juice out of us. We sit with it. So I would love if everybody who's listening to this today could really absorb what we're talking about here, that shame equals a denial of God's glory. That's what shame is. It's a denial of God's value. You know what shame says? God is true. Hashem is true. His value is absolute, but just not in me. In me, it's not, Hashem is true. His value is true. His value within me is true, but just it doesn't relate to this minute. Then Hashem is not true. Because to be true, Hashem is always true, 100% of the time, 100% of areas of our lives. Go ahead. It's the same thing. Shame is I am not enough, and guilt is I am not doing enough. And it's the same tool. Pick a side and run with it. If it's true that you're not doing enough, then do more. And if it's not true that you're not doing enough because you have a valid reason between you and God that it's not possible for you to do more now, then let it go. Pick a side and stay with it. Pick your truth. What do you believe? And the lies will die on their own. You don't have to smash the lies. We have to turn on the light of the truth with such clarity that we let go naturally of the lies, because we do not eat poison. We do not embrace a lie. When we know that someone is lying to us, we're not interested in them, right? What's the problem with guilt? We believe it, but we don't really believe it. We play with it. It's our Yetzer Hara. That's a very hard one. What if I know the truth, but somebody in my life keeps telling me lies? Not only do I have an internal voice of distraction and delusion, I have a very authoritative, very powerful, very strong, very influential voice in my life. And it's very confusing, maybe because that other person also loves me and cares about me. Maybe that other person comes from a place of caring. So it's very, very confusing, because that person belittles me, that person shames me, that person tells me I'm not doing enough, I'm not enough, I should be doing this, I should be doing that. So I think for that, we need more support. It's the same work. We just have to work harder. We have to pick our truth and really, really hold on to it. But because we need to hold on to it more, we also need to check in with somebody who we trust, who also is doing this work. The story that comes to mind with this, and it's such a great visual, Lubavitch for many years has a tradition of walking on the Yom Tovim to other Jewish communities to share the joy with them. And it's been for many years, from the 1950s and 1960s, from Crown Heights, they would go to different areas of Brooklyn. And at that time, many of the other communities that they went to were maybe not Torah observant. They went to different communities. And that tradition still goes on to this day, even to a community like Borough Park that has, many shuls, and they have plenty of the joy of Yom Tov but the Lubavitchers still come. And it's a tradition that many times, especially on Shavuos, it rains. The heavens open up exactly when the boys are marching out of Crown Heights, and it pours buckets. And it's a joke. They always joke about how it makes the mission, the purpose more meaningful, more it's more drama, it's more intense. One time, somebody told me that they were a bacher, and they were walking, or they were already married, and they were walking with a group of bachrim, and it started to rain. And the bachrim, as it started to rain, they're continuing to walk, and they're singing and they're dancing with real joy, and they're walking down the street. There was a guy sitting in the bus station, protected from the rain, and he's looking at the rain, he's looking at the guys, he's looking at the rain, he's looking at the guys. He's like weirded out, like they're walking and they're singing and they're dancing as if it's not raining. And at one point, finally, he stuck out his hand from under the bus station that was protecting him. He stuck out his hand, and he's like, oh yeah, it is raining. He had to check to make sure that it's raining. Couldn't believe that the boys would be walking with such joy and, as if it's not raining, they were walking in the rain. So he put out his hand to check if it's raining. And to me, that's a really good visual. Sometimes when we look at our lives or we listen to the people around us, what we're seeing denies our truth. This guy says, I know it's raining, but I see that it's not raining. These people are acting as if it's not raining. What, am I crazy? So he stuck out his hand to check if it's actually raining. We need to do that to ourselves. I know that I'm worthy, but actually I feel very unworthy. Something just happened that was really deeply unsettling. And so we could call a friend and say, hey, just tell me, am I whatever? And it has to be a trusted friend. It's not somebody who wants to, some people could, just use that as an opportunity to jump onto the self-pity wagon. And, so nebuch on you have such a terrible situation. Somebody's gaslighting, somebody's bashing, somebody's belittling, somebody's criticizing. You're never enough, poor you. It's actually every time we have to do this work, and I'm not, please, I don't know your situation. I don't know who's listening. I hope nobody should take this. I'm assuming that this person, we're talking about a difficult relationship. Clearly it's a difficult relationship, but it's not an impossible situation of abuse that you really should be walking away from, right? So I'm assuming it's a close relationship that you want to protect and you want to stay in the relationship and at the same time protect your sanity and stay sane because there is good in the relationship. So for that, you really need support. You really need support because you want to recognize the person as a package deal. There's good, there's respectability, there's connection. You're not going to put a big X on the person's nose and decide that nothing that comes out of the mouth is important. But the minute they touch on your value, you're out. You got to get, you have to have outside validation. You have to write yourself a note for those times when you're going to be, feeling confused. Write yourself a note. This is what happens. This person's going to gaslight. On a day when you have clarity, write yourself a note. Dear, whatever your name is, Sarah, Susie, Dorit, Dina, whatever your name is, dear self, I want you to know right now things are good and you're feeling happy about yourself, but one day soon you're going to be criticized, you're going to be belittled. When you feel that, when that happens, I want you to remember A, B, C. And it's just so helpful. But that's just one thing you could do for yourself if you don't have a trusted friend. But it's a really good thing to have a trusted friend, a good group. That could be very, very helpful. And I want to just say it is really hard work, but it's not different work. You could do it. Like these tools work exactly for that. It's a great question. It's an excellent question. I'm so happy you asked it. So I just want to repeat that in for the recording. We've been talking, this whole thing is about letting go of shame and how shame is a contradiction and denial of Hashem's value. But yet we know that Yidden are called, we have 3 midas that are inherent to every Jew in our DNA. It's Rahmanis, right? Rahmanim, to be compassionate, to be kind-hearted, to be doing chesed, goodness to others, and to be bashful. So how does that reconcile with what we are talking about, especially since we know that when we do an avera, when we do something wrong, we're supposed to be embarrassed. And I want to add something that you didn't say. We say in davening, in the bracha of Ahavas Olam, right before Shema, we ask Hashem, please open our hearts to love you so that we will not be embarrassed. That when we come upstairs, we won't say, uh-oh, I made a mistake. I spent all my money on garbage instead of all my energy on nonsense and pursuing emptiness instead of pursuing truth. So how does that reconcile with shame? There's a very big difference between feeling like I did something wrong, therefore I want to rectify it because I don't want to sit with that ugliness. It's like, if you tell somebody, oh, you have lotion in your beard, or you're slipping, you're wearing a slip and you're slipping. So I have this momentary feeling of I'm embarrassed. It's not anything deep. It's more like, oh, it's not what I want to be doing. It's not where I want to be. I want to tuck in that slip and right away fix it. Right? It's a certain thing of like, it's a contradiction to my dignity. It's a pasmernish, like we say in Yiddish, right? It's not befitting for me to be sitting here hanging out on a bowl of popcorn. I don't want to be doing that. So I feel that sense of like it's embarrassment of this behavior. Therefore, I'm going to stop. That's very different from shame. The way we're defining shame is not that. What we're defining shame is because I was slipping, because my slip fell, the elastic was loose and it fell a little, and somebody had to tell me, by the way, you're slipping, you need to fix it. I feel embarrassed for the rest of the day. I am so mortified because something is wrong with me. That is shame. That's a decision that this slip has the power, and the fact that the other person saw my slip under, that it fell out of my, they decided I'm not put together, something's wrong with me, I'm a little bit less than them, I'm a little less than humanity. That embarrassment, that's what we're talking about. That's the shame that we're talking about. Do you hear the difference? One is a sense of fullness. It's like, oh, I don't want to. Another thing is where it comes from is busha really is bashfulness. When you're in the presence of greatness, you feel a sense of awe, and you don't do things that are not respectful to that greatness. That's really what it is. It's like, I don't want to, I am so in awe that it comes with a bashfulness. I'm going to be a little bit inhibited. Yeah, I am going to be a little bit inhibited. When you're in your house, there's no inhibition. You throw off your shoes, you sit on the couch, you just say whatever you want, right? There's no inhibition. You're at home, you're comfortable. But when you're in the presence of company that you respect, you're a little bit more, what we're going to say, bashful. You're a little bit more embarrassed of just putting yourself out there. That's a healthy shame. That's healthy. That's wholehearted. That's a good thing. That's a sign of a healthy individual who has respect for other people, doesn't want to put themselves out onto other, everywhere. We're in the presence of Hashem. We just don't do things that are not respectful of Hashem's presence. That's the kind of embarrassment that's like, I'm not, just doing whatever I'm not going to say whatever I think. I'm going to be a little bit more respectful. I'm a little bit embarrassed to put myself everywhere because that doesn't belong here. It's different than the decision that I am inherently a bad person and I'm not good enough and something's wrong with me. It's really true, because when you feel good about yourself, you have a criticism is as superficial as a piece of lotion that got stuck on your shirt. It's nothing. It's not, it doesn't go deep. It's not past, it doesn't even go skin deep, not even in one ear and out the other. It's just technical. And I think that's basically what I'm hearing. That's the energy of what I'm hearing. And that's beautiful. You're very, 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 very blessed to be up to that. But somebody asked a really good question. I just want to share that and then we'll conclude. Someone saying, what if a person is actually more than me? Somebody in my life is better than me. And I always feel inferior when I'm in the presence of that person. I don't want to feel inferior, but I cannot face that person without feeling inferiority. I want to tell you a mantra. I want you to try this, okay? I am not better than anyone else, and nobody is better than me. The visual that I have is you could be walking on flat land, right? Flat land means we walk side by side. We're all level. We're on the same level. The ground is leveled. We're all children of Hashem. We're all just doing our best. We're all trying our best. We're all struggling. We all have pain. We all have concerns. We all have broken hearts in different ways, in different places, at different parts of our lives. Nobody, Ein Bayis Asher Ein Sham Meis was in Mitzrayim. There's no house there's no family, there's no person that does not have real pain and unsolvable problems in our lives today. So we're all level. We're all walking out. Some people's pain is private. Some people's pain is more public, so everybody knows about it. And some people's is private, so you don't know about it. But everyone has stuff. We all have stuff. And so from that perspective, we're all just trying our best. We're all on the same level ground. We could hold hands and walk through this life together, sharing strength, sharing encouragement, sharing wisdom, sharing hope, and sharing sharing what works for us. That's what we're doing right here. Another way that people do this is like, well, I can't face myself. I cannot face my vulnerabilities. I can't face my weaknesses. I can't face my insecurities, my fears. So I'm going to make myself better than other people. When they climb into a high-rise tower, they spend 50% of their conversations are talking about other people because they know, well, I know I'm not good. I know I'm not good, but at least I'm not as bad as the other person. Do you know how bad they are? You know what suffering they have? And they spend 50% of their life talking about other people. Some communities are rampant with gossip. That's what it is. I know I'm not that good, but at least I'm better than you. There's a certain delight in hearing someone else's pain, in hearing somebody else's dirty stuff, dirty laundry, and mistakes, and tearing them up and ripping them apart and analyzing other people and talking about it's that's the high rise. Okay. Then some people go into a pit where I'm not as good as that person on top, and I need them to make me feel good about myself. That's also a distortion of reality. That's also, I'm less than myself. I'm not as good. I need you to pick me up. Only when you give me a compliment, then I could stand on level ground with you. But that's also, it's really a distortion of reality, because the way Hashem created us, again, from the perspective of if we weigh ourselves by how much we weigh, by pounds of meat, or by ounces of beauty, or by success, or by failure, or by social whatever savviness, or computer savviness, or financial, whatever, if we're weighing ourselves by anything circumstantial or external, then yeah, there's differences between us. From that perspective, we're all different. And in some ways, this one is better, and in some ways, they're worse. But that's not the truth of who we are. And again, if we want to reap the benefits of Hashem's truth, we need to embrace it in its totality. Every ounce of credence that we give to Avodah Zarah, we're going to experience misery, frustration, self-pity, resentment, and inferiority. Because from the perspective of Hashem is true, and if we're judging ourselves from the fact that Hashem is true, then the only truth is that we are sisters. We're all in this together. We're all trying our best. Nobody knows anybody else's Yetzer Hara, what it looks like, because nobody's in another person's heart, in another person's feet. Nobody is in another person's shoes. Nobody knows the greatness, the awesomeness of each other's souls. They were all awesome. We're all part of Hashem, but nobody knows the details of exactly, which neshama is connected to which. And we talked about this, and I think in our Shabbos discussion or in Tanya maybe, that there are differences, like some neshamas are less impacted by the journey into this world. Let's put it that way. We don't know which neshama is more impacted, less impacted. We just know we're all the same. We're all trying our best, so we could all support each other. That's the only truth. You know that song, the kids' song, "Don't walk in front of me, I may not follow. Don't walk behind me, I may not lead. Just walk beside me and be my friend. And together we will walk in the ways of Hashem." You remember that song? Anybody know it here? Whatever. That's the song I grew up on. And in adult language, it's, I am not better than you. You are not better than me. Nobody is better than me. And I am not better than anyone else. So if you're ever feeling like you're sinking into the pits, or if you ever feel yourself climbing into that high-rise tower, talking about other people, looking down at other people, judging other people, what you want to do is come down onto level earth. Come down onto level earth and just, either a mantra that you could say, Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, because when you recognize Hashem's power, everyone's on the same page. Or you could say in English, what I told myself for a long time when I was working on this is, I am not better than anybody else, and nobody is better than me. This person that I have inferiority complex, she's actually not better than me. We're really all the same. Anyways, I hope that answers your question. I want to just conclude with this. Somebody else wanted to say something. If you did a mistake, fix it. If what you're telling yourself that you are a mistake, then what weighs more? What takes up more space? We talked about this before, but here's the visual again, okay? If you take all the things in the world, all the possible mistakes, all the possible successes, everything in the world, and put it on one side of the scale, and put Melech Malchei HaMelachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu on the other side of the scale, what weighs more? That's really what it boils down to. That's the question. What weighs more? What matters more? What's going to take up more space in our consciousness? So fix your mistake. If you feel bad that you made a mistake, fix it. If you don't really feel bad, then leave it. Pick a side. Pick your truth and let the lies disappear. They will disappear. They will go off you. You will never again be stuck with shame, because the same way you don't drink poison, you will not drink shame. You just won't. Somebody recently messaged me about the availability of the book, if it's on Amazon, Your Awesome Self on Amazon. They had a problem with it. So it was a couple of weeks ago, I went onto Amazon and I looked up the book. And as I did, I noticed that there were quite a few reviews. And when the book was new, I was very eager for a few positive reviews. So I checked the site very often. But honestly, I did not look at it for a long time. But that day, a couple of weeks ago, since I was there anyway, I started reading the reviews, and Baruch Hashem, most of them were positive, 5 stars. And so it was overwhelming in a good way, just very humbling to read. But then there was one review that stood out. It had 1 star. Now, 1 star, for everybody who doesn't know Amazon, 1 star, it's as low as it can get. Okay, you cannot give anyone 0 stars. So 1 is the lowest possible. And the heading of that 1 star review said, "Too much God." The person wrote that they couldn't get through the book. They could not get through it. I don't remember the exact words, but it was something like, there is so much unnecessary mention of God. Almost every page made me angry. Please go read another book with some basis in reality, because this book has no basis in reality, something like that, okay? And she wrote, this book, or he, I don't know who it was, this book makes Judaism look like a cult. And I read the review and I literally laughed out loud. I screenshotted it and I shared it with my family. Because I grew up knowing that if you're not criticized, it means you did not do anything important. And if someone does criticize your work, it means that your work is important. So I felt like I had finally arrived. But the reason why I'm sharing that now is because too much God is the name of the game. She was right, or the person who wrote this review was 100% right. It is about having too much God, for sure. There is a certain extremism here, but the extremism is where the blessing is. I don't mean extremism because extremism is a bad word. I mean the black and white, and black and white is also a bad word, right? If you have that, but here it is. We need to have that clarity. A wishy-washy God, a wishy-washy Hashem cannot save us from ourselves. Cannot. Insecure, incomplete, uncertain Hashem cannot save us. Cannot be. We need absolute clarity. Only an absolute truth can save us from the toxicity of lies that we believe, from the toxicity of our Yetzer Hara, our inner force of distraction and delusion that pulls us down and out. So be extreme about your commitment to Hashem's truth. Yes, be extreme about it. Meaning, it's be very certain. Pick a side, pick a truth. But whatever is your truth, let it be 100% truth. Because a 99% truth, what's the point of believing? You want to believe in Hashem who's not relevant? You want to believe in Hashem who doesn't relate to your life, who's not so practical, who's hayich in the heavens and not here on this earth? We could be extreme, and we don't need to be ashamed of having that extreme clarity, and that's not cultish, because it's not an extremism that binds us, it liberates us. In fact, it's the only way to be free of the lies that we believe about ourselves. For so many years, I read so many books, self-help books, about you're worthy, you know, unconditional love, inherent value. I read all those books, and it went right over my head because I didn't believe it. I believed my shame more than I believed some author who didn't even know me. And I would think, if you only knew me, you wouldn't say that about me. Like a few people wrote on the chat today. Well, maybe it doesn't apply to me. I'm an exception to the rule. Everyone else is valuable, but I'm an exception. And it was only when I learned about Hashem's absolute value, it was only when I absorbed it, when I really took it in, when I allowed it to permeate my consciousness enough to recognize that if this was true, then the other thing had to be a lie. Suddenly, in the light of that truth, there was like a red light flashing, like there was a contradiction here. But until then, I had no problem with having that shame. And it didn't seem to contradict anything because I didn't really believe, I didn't really absorb, I didn't really have that deep connection. But a wishy-washy relationship with Hashem, you know, maybe sometimes, possibly, maybe it's true, maybe it's not true. Sometimes it's true, possibly it's true, could be true, it might not be true. It's true here, it's lofty, it's not practical. That kind of relationship with Hashem is, first of all, Avodah Zarah. To say that Hashem is irrelevant is Avodah Zarah. And on a practical level, it doesn't work. Okay, Jewish faith works, the Torah works, the Yiddishkeit works. David HaMelech said in Tehillim, taste and you will see that Hashem is good. And we're not talking about good like in the heavens, you know, we're talking about good in this world, happiness, inner peace, courage, dignity, a sense of wholehearted security, even in the face of fearsome, chaotic uncertainty in around us. We need Hashem today more than ever. And if we want the goodness that really is our birthright, it's really our birthright, right? It's not enough to lick it. It's not enough to hold it or to touch it, you know, by the tips of our fingernails. We actually have to eat it, tamu. We have to taste it. We have to swallow it. We have to digest it completely. That's how we experience the goodness. That's the only way. So thank you. I love that visual of the train leaving the station without you. The way you use it is fantastic. It's just fantastic. Like I could really feel it as you were saying it. Hi, Hashem should bless you and all of us with Hashem should just make, you know, Hashem should bring Mashiach. That's it. No more gullus, no more shame, no more struggles. This is just so beautiful. You've brought, like you know, you've given Hashem a gift. You've given yourself a gift, but you also gave Hashem a gift and the world because you brought Mashiach closer. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. I love what you just said. What you're saying is, let's say there's a behavior. I'm not happy with it. I have shame around the behavior. And I want to fix the behavior because it doesn't belong, the shame doesn't belong to me, but the mistake and the regret and, you know, of that behavior does belong to me. And I want to change it. So where do I begin? And the way you answered that was so beautiful. You answered it. You said, like, I'm going to start in a small way. I can't be perfect. We can't change overnight. You know, habits die hard, right? It's hard, but if you pick one tiny thing that you're going to change, you're taking a step in the right direction. To me, that would be very comforting, very encouraging. I think what you said is beautiful. And I know that you're very good at getting out of Hashem's way and letting him work through you. Meaning to say, not Hashem fix it and I don't do anything, but like Hashem wants to fix this, so I better not get in his way. Like I'm not going to hold on to my willfulness. I'm not going to hold on to my agenda. I'm going to let him help me show up to my life the way he wants me to, the way I want to, you know? You know, for such a long time, and many of you know, I've been struggling with staying away from sugar. And over Pesach, I knew that, you know, Pesach is a time of liberating from our Yetzer Hara. So on Pesach, I said, Hashem, with the energy of Pesach, I'm going to ask Hashem to help me say goodbye to the Egyptian taskmaster called sugar. And I'm off. I'm done. I want to say goodbye to the prison of sugar. Sometimes we need, the only way is to have Hashem help us, but then we need to let him help us. You know, sometimes you're trying to help somebody and they don't let you help them. They're doing it. You're trying to show them what to do, but they just don't. They're busy doing their own thing. Anyways, thank you for sharing that. I want everyone to be able to get to sleep, and we're gonna come back here next week in Mirz Hashem. Next week is our closing for this season. Mirz Hashem, we're gonna meet during the summer for some learning. I'm not sure exactly what, but this weekly event on Wednesday nights, we're probably gonna continue more towards the end of the summer. I'm gonna take a couple of weeks off. If you have any questions, a lot of people have been sending to info@energizedliving.org. I want to ask you to send personal questions to sterna@energizedliving.org because I'm not the only one who sees that other email address. I want to wish everyone a wonderful week. And thank you so much for being a wonderful Shabbos, first of all. And thank you again for being part. Everything in one foot. Okay, this whole series was a lot of it was good stuff. So in a nutshell, proactively build yourself a self. Build yourself a self. And I think that you know what that looks like, right? Building yourself a self. I want to tell you something else. There's nothing like being part of a group. A group just started in Borough Park in person. I would love, my dream is every single person should be part of a group. I think that I know in my own life, I get so much chizuk from the person, from the groups, from the smaller groups. Text me privately, 917-687-9712 or sterna@energizedliving.org, and I will share the information about, I'll help you either start your own group or join another group. But that's the biggest tool, because that keeps all the tools in front of your face. But building yourself a self and doing something for yourself. I want to just say one other thing, and this is something that also helped me, and that's something that we didn't say before. I don't feel like I should repeat everything that we just talked about, but it's really build yourself a self, and in the moment, validate the pain. I want to say ABC. Accept that you cannot change this person. Breathe, to come back to your center and connect to truths that you know and truths that you want to tell yourself to help you come back to your center. Basically, you want to have a self-recognize that you're going to be tossed away, you're going to be unsettled, you're going to be shaken away from yourself, and then you're going to come back to it, and it's okay. And you know the process. You have a self where you feel grounded, where you feel connected, where you feel strong, and then things happen, and you get pulled away from that self, right? And then you're going to come back to it. That to me is that's the shortest version of the story. I want to tell you something. That did not do it. I want to tell you a story. Okay. There was a guy we used to have when I was a kid. We had this little blue book with a bunch of Yiddish stories. And this was one of the stories. I'll never forget it because I read it so many times. A guy is hungry. He goes to the bakery. He buys a bagel. He goes out of the bakery. He eats the bagel. He's hungry. He's still hungry. So he goes back in and he eats another bagel. He buys another bagel. He goes out. He eats the bagel. He's still hungry. Goes back in, he buys bagel number 3, goes out, he eats it, he's still hungry. He goes inside, he's like, you know what, these bagels are not working for me. I'm going to try something else. I'm going to try something different this time. I'm going to try the roll. So he buys himself a roll and he eats the roll and he's finally full. And he says, I had 3 bagels and 1 roll. I should have bought the roll to begin with. Who needs the bagels, right? And obviously it's a joke. It became an expression in my family, like when we were knocking a nail and finally somebody else came and did the job, then we would say the expression, dry bagels mit ein roll. Like it's not, every bagel contributed to this person's being satiated. So all the work that you did every single day, all that work did something. Happens to be, the message was the roll. But every ounce of energy that you invested, that's where yourself has been building. That's where the work has been happening, and that's where the healing has been coming from. I think none of us like the work. We all kind of want, subconsciously, we want it to be done for us. So like we're looking for that magic. There's no magic. If you wouldn't have had the 3 bagels, the roll would not make you full. All right, my dear friends. I want to wish everyone a good Tanakh. Again, if you want to join a small group in person in Borough Park, call me or text 917-687-9712 or email sterna@energizedliving.org. Have a wonderful Shabbos, and I'll see you next week. Mir Hashem. Thank you for joining.